How's it going, people? Sam and Slappy here, and this is your quest guide to Nomads Elegy. Start to finish, no fast forward in, just what you need to know. Let's get started, shall we? Quest requirements: Dishonor Among Thieves, Heart of Stone, The Mighty Fall, Throne of Miscellanea, Nomad's Requiem, and The Void Stares Back needs to be completed. Additionally, if you don't want to spoil the story, then there's a few more quests you could do, such as While Gothic Sleeps and Blood Runs Deep. That way, no spoilers. Either way, skill-wise, you require 75 mining, 75 construction, and 75 woodcutting for this one. There are absolutely no item requirements, although you probably do need some combat gear, as pretty much the entire latter half of this quest is just boss fight after boss fight. To start this quest, you need to speak to Zimberfizz inside Soul Wars. Just before we do that, item-wise though, I do recommend you bring along some range gear for this one, as you do end up fighting a few of the Ascension members for quite a while during this fight. And you do fight against Nomad for the final part of the fight, and you fight him a couple of times at that. It is entirely possible to do this with any other combat method though. There is nothing limited in you to actually using range, but the Ascensions bit does last for a little while, so. It is also possible in between each of the boss fights and the pseudo boss fights, you'll understand when we get to that later on, to actually leave and bank, and you can come back with a different gear set. So if you'd like, then I do recommend bringing on the range set for the Ascensions, as that's kind of the first part of the boss section. And after that, it's all Nomad and pseudo boss fights, in which case you can use whatever you prefer to wipe out Nomad. There we go. That is pretty much it then. So those are all your requirements for Nomads Elegy. If you've got all that shit ready, game on. So come on up over to Edgeville, and just to the southwest of it, you will find the Soul Wars portal. That's where we're going, that's where we start the quest. Get in there. So literally as soon as you arrive, you'll see Zimberfizz right in front of you, he's a little limp fella. Go ahead and choose option 2, talk about Nomads Elegy. He'll go blah 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 blah. Click accept, and he'll carry on going blah blah blah. Go ahead and spam through all that, just hold down that spacebar, and once he's done, jump in the tent. So once you've gone through the tent, you'll appear inside Nomad's throne room. So there's a few things you just got to click on in here. It's nice and simple. First things first though, you'll find Zimberfizz somewhere randomly wandering about in this room. Go ahead and speak to him quickly. Run through his chat, and then run directly to your east. Just behind these pillars right here, you'll see a dodgy little looking thing on the floor. Go ahead and click there. And you'll have a little chat, run through it. And then just to your north, you'll find the big ass throne room. Go ahead and click on the throne itself, and that'll be your second one. Almost directly west of it, there's a big old green goop on the floor. Go ahead and click on that. And that'll give you your third clue. And then directly north of it, you'll see some neon blue looking footprints. Go ahead and click on those bad boys. They're actually crystals, but boom, goes the dynamite. And we die. So that was a lovely quest. And maybe not. Cutscene. You're now talking with Death and Icthlarin. Go ahead and spam through it. You know the drill by now. Just hold down the spacebar and hope it ends. Choose option 1. Although either option doesn't really matter. As soon as you finish the cutscene though, go ahead and enter Death's door just behind the desk. And you'll appear in this dodgy little area right here. Once you regain control, talk to Death. And run through his chat and choose option 1. What do I need to do? Once you've run through that, just go ahead and leave the conversation, option 5. I've gotta go. Once you've done that, head to the northwesternmost pier. And go ahead and board the little boat. And once you do so, we'll appear in some kind of alternate death reality version of Lumbridge. So once you're here, go ahead and speak to Astrid or Brand. They'll be directly in front of where we spawn. Just run through the chat, you'll find out you're in the Underworld, essentially. And we now need to save people. Yay! Head into the Lumbridge Castle and into the dining room and speak to Zenia. And go ahead and choose option 1 with a polite greeting. Run through all of the chat, and she'll tell you she's gone senile. No problem at all. Go north and up the stairs to the 2nd floor. Once you're on the 2nd floor, in the southernmost room with a spinning wheel, you'll find Hazelmere. Go ahead and talk to this little gnomey motherfucker. Spam through his chat and he'll teleport away. Don't worry, we'll be talking to him quite a lot throughout this quest. Go into the Duke's room directly north of you and try to open the chest. Once you do so, an enemy will spawn. Go ahead and mow it down. It's fairly straightforward. It's not particularly a high level and doesn't do a huge amount of damage either, so kind of a face roll mob this one. If you die, I don't know what you're doing wrong. Once it's dead though, it'll drop a key, so go ahead and eat one of your food. If your inventory's full like mine, pick that key up and then try to open the chest again. Once you do so, you'll receive one of Zenia's memories. Yay! Now just to the northeast on this same floor, you'll find Hazelmeal just wandering about. Go ahead and talk to him once again. He's up in this northeast corner. Once you finish talking to him, he'll teleport away again. Never mind, go upstairs again. So up to your northwest, up the ladders to the 3rd floor. Once up here in the center of the room, you'll find another chest. Go ahead and open it, and another mob will spawn. Go ahead and mow this one down. Once again, it's still the same level, fairly easy. Nice straightforward, easy fight. Once again, he'll drop a key, so eat another food if you haven't already. And pick up this key. And as you've probably already guessed, open the chest to receive the 2nd of Zenia's memories. With the 2 memories in your inventory, go ahead and use one on the other. Right click use. And boom, you now have 1 memory. Climb the ladder which is attached to the north wall of that room, and you'll appear at the very top of Lumbridge Castle, where you'll find Hazelmeal. Talk to him again, and he'll once again teleport away. It's quite an arse, this gnome. Once you've done that, you want to head down to the ground floor, the 1st floor, and we need to speak to Zenia, and we'll give her her memories back. So make your way down, go ahead and speak to her, and spam through her nonsense. And she'll teleport away. Yeah, there's a common theme in this place. Now once you've done that, you want to head east and out of Lumbridge Castle, and you want to head towards Bob's shop. And inside there, you will find either Karasi or Jessica, depending on who you saved and who you let die in the Void Stairs back. Go ahead and speak to them, they'll be in this 1st room here. Run through the chat, and once again, we have another senile friend. So we now need to grab her memories. Just before we do that, you want to head to the outer wall of Lumbridge and head up one of these ladders here to the fort upper levels. Head to the very top of it, and you'll find Hazelmeal. Speak to him, run through his chat, teleport away. So you want to head back down the ladders now and make your way to the south side of the Lumbridge Castle, and here you will find Wizard Greyzag. Go ahead and speak to him, and you want to choose option 1, I'm not Jessica. Then option 3, my name is Jessica, or Karasi, depending on which one you saved. Keep on running through the chat. Then choose option 2, Wizard Greyzag. Then he'll turn into the Pest Queen, because, you know, wizards do that. Then you want to choose option 2, you represent danger. Then option 4, I'm not afraid of you. And last but not least, option 1, and that'll be that. And once you've finished talking to this bellend, he'll give you a memory for Jessica / Karasi. Good times. Head back into the fort walls and head up 1 floor this time. And then here you'll find the other Void Stairs back character. Speak to them, run through their chat, and they'll give you the 2nd half of her memory. Same as before, use the memories on each other to make 1 whole memory. Then head back downstairs, head back down towards Bob's shop, and speak to Jessica or Karasi in that original room. Once you do so, they'll receive their memories, and poof, they'll teleport away. In the room just south of you, you'll find Hazelmeal once again. Go ahead and talk to him, and he'll teleport away. Now you want to run to the west side of the Lumbridge Castle, around the back side of it, and you need to speak to Hazelmeal once again. Yeah, he does like getting around, this little gnome, fair play. Spam through his chat, and he'll teleport back to basically where we spawned, right in the centre. Go ahead and talk to him there. And eventually he'll teleport away, but this time for good. Go ahead and choose any option. It doesn't seem to matter which one you choose, he'll still come with you. Once you finish talking to him, speak to Astrid or Brand, whichever one you have standing right next to him, and you'll have a little cutscene. And Nomad will pop up and be like a Dukin, and then your friend dies, and then it's like, ah, oh well. Poor bugger. The option you choose in the cutscene doesn't matter, so just spam through it as quickly as you possibly can. And once you've done so, and you've regained control, click on the dodgy red portal in the center to reappear back in Death's little chamber. So you'll appear back on these docks here. This time you want to head to the eastern pier. And this is a combat section. If you do need food before you go into it, there is a bank chest right next to where Death and the war table is, just a touch to the south. So you can go ahead and use those to restock. Also quite useful to have stat boosting pots for this, but as it's kind of like a gauntlet wave, you'll have 3 waves of Bendosian followers coming at you, and the entire premise of this little section is you need to try and keep 10 incredibly pathetically weak cave goblins alive. As long as one survives by the time you finish the wave, you will move on to the next one. Additionally, through all of the fights of Nomads Elegy from this point onwards, if you happen to die, it will count as an actual death, so you will have to buy your gear back from Death before you reattempt the next fight. So, don't die. Good advice, eh? Now, this first one's fairly straightforward. It's not too hard. More likely you're going to fail to protect the cave goblins rather than actually die. They deal very little damage. Most of the mobs will have either 2k HP or about 8k HP, or at least they did for me at a max level account. Assuming it's the same for everybody, it should be the same for you. The idea is, as soon as you see one of the mobs, just attack it once to grab its attention, and if you can, kill it before the next one spawns. If not, just try to grab their attention as much as possible. Your AoE spells and abilities will come incredibly handy here. But as long as you're quick on your clicks, and you can get them before they reach your cave goblin friends, you should be good. Ideally, you want to stand as far away from the cave goblins as possible, ideally in this little section here for this first part, as you should be able to kill all of these without too much trouble, or at least distract all of them before any of them reach your cave goblin buddies across that little broke bridge. You do have to keep an eye out on that far north side though, as they do spawn and some of them can be pretty quick when it comes to crossing that bridge. But for the most part, it's literally just tap them once, you should get the aggro, and if for whatever reason you are genuinely struggling, you can use the inside ability as under your HP abilities, and that should increase your aggro, albeit very slightly. I do mean very slightly. Once they start killing those cave goblins, they are pretty adamant about killing cave goblins. Either way, that's your first wave. It's fairly straightforward. There's nothing massively powerful or strong about any of the mobs here. None of them are running. They all walk towards the goal. And once you've done so, you'll appear here for your second wave. For this part, you want to move up quite a fair amount, and you'll have barbarians spawning for this one rather than goblins. HP wise, they're the same though, only this time they introduce a few runners. So go ahead and quickly kill the runners. The runners typically have 2k HP, so you can normally 2-bang them. And the others got about 7k HP, so those you can kind of just hold back. Try to reserve your AoE abilities as much as possible, such as Chain and your Dragonfire if you're using Mage. Main reason for that is eventually they start to spawn 2 or 3 monsters at the same time, and that's where your Chain ability and your Dragonfire and all of those kind of moves are going to come in handy to try and grab aggro as quickly as possible. And towards the final waves, you start to get ogres and some big chunky monkeys coming out to try and kill the cave goblins. General idea though is try and stay as far away and attack them pretty much as soon as they spawn to keep them all out here and as far away from that bridge as possible, because apparently when it comes to bridges, they just quickly run across them with no cares in the world. If you happen to fail this and the cave goblins do die, it is a safe technical death. You'll just restart the wave essentially. And if you happen to fail on, say, the second or the third wave and you exit out of it, you will restart from whatever wave you left on last time. So you don't have to do all 3 waves every single time. So if you do need to restock on food and stuff, you can do that method and just let them kill the cave goblins to retry it again later. Once you've done the second wave though, you're on to the third one now. This one is a bit more difficult. They come from both the left and the right here, so you do need to be quick on switching your targets about to try and keep them all away from the bridge as much as possible. The spawns do start to get a bit hectic because pretty much every single monster will start running on this wave. But again, it's the same tactic as before. Your general mobs will run with about 2k HP, the others with 7k, and then you'll get your big ogres and your massive monkey boys. They'll come out and have quite a bit more HP. But as long as you hit them early enough, you'll keep them distracted from mowing down all your cave goblins. This is probably the wave that will cause you most problems if you're lower leveled or if you have lower accuracy and damage weapons. As it's all about trying to grab their attention as quickly as possible here, and as you can see, 3 spawn and it's easy to miss them. And that's where your AoE abilities come in handy. Quick little tip for this one is if you have your AoE abilities, keep them out of your revolution so you can manually trigger them with one of your key presses. That is probably your best bet for this section, just so you've always got them in reserve. But besides that, it's the same as the previous 2 waves. Kill them before they kill you. So this is the one part which will probably get quite a little bit hairy, is right at the end, as you'll have 2 giant ogres which you're not going to be able to kill, and then all of a sudden they'll spawn 3 or 4 little trolls and the big final boss which has got a large chunk of HP. If you're going to fail at any point on the third wave, it'll probably be at this section, but as long as you got your AoE skills ready, you shouldn't have too much trouble keeping the hate on you here. Just try and bounce your attacks between each of the mobs as much as you physically can. And if you've got insight on, it'll help you ever so slightly. You also kind of want to keep an eye on your HP for this bit, because those chunky ogres and that final boss will dish out a decent-ish amount of damage. But once they've all spawned though, that is the final part of the wave. And as long as you've got at least 1 cave goblin standing by the time you finish them off, that is this section complete. Enjoy the cutscene. Spam space. Alright then, as soon as that cutscene's over, you'll now reappear back in Death's little port. There's no combat for a little while yet, but if you do want to restock, you're more than welcome to. The bank chest is just over by here, although don't bother putting out any summons or anything yet, as you'll be forced to take them away pretty soon. So if you need to fill your inventory with food, feel free to. Once you're ready, click on the war table in the center. Once you do so, apparently one of the Legios has been captured, Legio Septimus, and it's time to torture the shit out of him, because, you know, we're apparently torturers now. Either way, choose option 1, I've got a few questions, son. Then choose option 2, threaten him, and keep choosing option 2, threaten him. Yeah. Eventually though, after you keep threatening him, you will gain another option on option 3 called remove crystal. As soon as that appears, you now want to alternate between threaten and remove crystal, and basically rinse and repeat until he dies. And that is pretty much it for this entire little torture section. I have no idea if there's actually a wrong way to do this. So I dare say you could probably just threaten him forever. As long as you lower his health once his willpower is at naught, you should be good. So just to recap, it's literally just use option 2 until eventually remove crystal pops up, then alternate between threaten and remove crystal, which is option 2, 3. And bounce between each of those actions until eventually Legio just drops down on the floor and keels over. And we'll learn absolutely nothing, but doesn't matter. We're still going to poke Nomad in the face, so either way. So there we go then, once Legio's just dropped down and died, go ahead and click on the war table once again and choose any random 2 people. It doesn't matter which ones you choose for this little bit. Once you do so, you'll appear in this little room and tell them both to gather 1 of each. So 1 gathers wood, 1 gathers metal, and then help gather. Yeah, very, very straightforward little bit. All you need to do is gather 25 wood and 25 metal. Unfortunately, you can't actually mine and woodcut them all yourself, as some of it does need to be collected by your NPCs, so you may wait around for a few seconds at the end for them to collect everything. And all the while this is going on, Nomad will be talking shit, so you can go ahead and read that throughout this entire section if you want, because besides that, ain't nothing else going on, son. You're just going to be mining and woodcutting until you've gained 25 of each. Enjoy Nomad's rattling on. So there we go then. Once you've collected all 25 of your ore and 25 of your wood, little chat box will pop up. Just go ahead and spam through it and then exit through this doorway here. You'll reappear right back next to the war table. So once you're back in here, you'll see a kind of blueprint-ish of a giant-ass catapult over to your north. Go ahead and click on it and you'll start building up the ram. And again, you don't really do a lot here, Scum. Well, it takes a while to build a ram apparently. You're going to be standing here for, oh, I'm going to say a good minute and a half, 2 minutes, possibly 3 at a push. I reckon go ahead and make yourself a cup of tea, or, you know, get a drink or something. Maybe do some food. Takes a little while. And all the while you're building this lovely battering ram, the battering ram of doom, Nomad's going to be chatting to you. So you got something to read at least. You know? That's something, right? God damn, Nomad, you don't have waffle on. Out on a pier, building my ram, dum 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 dum, gonna ram Nomad down, boom 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 boom. My God, come on, hurry up and build. Jesus Christ. Well, I suppose while this nonsense is going on, I'll let you know what's coming up. Pretty much everything after we finish building this ram from this point onwards is technically a boss battle. It's just combat after combat after combat after combat. The difference is it's in quite a number of phases, and in between each of the phases you can technically go outside, restock, and then come back in and continue where you left off. So for these next sections, I recommend bringing along your combat gear. The first section is against those Ascension members, and you do fight for quite a while against these fellas, as you need to defend your ram as you go into invade Nomad's base. So I do recommend range gear for this first section. Obviously, overloads, extremes, or supers, any one of those. Ideally overloads, because, you know, bigger is better. And your best range gear you can. It's possible to do it with mage, it's very possible to do it with melee, but range just makes your life easier against the Ascension, so why not? Also, I do recommend bringing along a one-click emergency oh shit telly. So, something like a house teleport tab or an ectofile or anything along those lines. Just something you can quickly click and boom, free, safe. Bring one of them along just in case. Now personally, I didn't find any of these fights particularly hard, but if you are completely and utterly incapable of paying attention to anything whatsoever, then, well, even then, if you've got access to a yak and a rock tills, you're pretty much good. But if you don't, then you may need to pay a little bit more attention, and that emergency telly could actually save you quite a bit of money in case you die. So at this point now as well, you can use summons, as they are available from this section onward, as it is just combat only. So this first section then is against the Ascension members. Do recommend your range gear, your typical overload, stat boosting pots, plus some prayer pots. Stack your inventory full of rock tills, stack your yak, or whatever beast of burden you got full of rock tills as well. And as soon as you're ready, click on that war table in the center. You'll receive a little cutscene, and then it's time to go to war against Nomad. Throughout this entire first section, a little window will appear on the top of your screen, and it'll be little pictures of every single member of your group, all 6 of them, as you can see on screen right now. Now you can click on these little pictures and then click somewhere on the map, and it'll tell that particular NPC to run or move to that position. The main things you want to do for this first section is just crossing the bridge, is try to keep Death and Ixthlarin ahead of the ram by a fair chunk. If monsters come close to Ixthlarin and Death, they pretty much get one-shotted, so it's a good idea to try and keep them ahead as much as physically possible. Additionally, you need to stay ahead of the ram by a few steps, and if you go too far away from it, the ram will stop moving, so you do need to stay close-ish towards it. Now occasionally as you come across this bridge, once you reach a certain mark, Ascension members will start spawning and coming out towards you to try and destroy the ram and you and your buddies. You shouldn't have too many problems here, just mow them down. It's normally 1 or 2 at a time, so you don't have much risk on this first bit. So those are your general tactics then. Keep Death and Ixthlarin moved forward as much as physically possible, and just simply escort the ram across while you mow down the random Ascension members that just appear. And that'll be your first section done. Bridge crossed. Now this next section we're going to be coming across is kind of an all-out war against Ascension members. Essentially, you need to protect your ram whilst it's trying to mow down this doorway here from all of the Ascension members that are coming after you. It's fairly straightforward. You ideally just want to stand next to the ram and mow down any of the Ascension members that spawn on either side of it as quickly as physically possible. So, again, stat boosting pots will come in handy here to try and mow them down quicker, so will your prayers. But as soon as you spawn in, your ram will start crossing a very, very small bridge, and all of your party members will kind of just stand in place. Now, as soon as you start and you appear in this little area, you want to try and move almost all of your characters onto this bridge, and kind of layer them up to block the pathway completely so the NPCs can't actually come past. Again, you want Death and Icthrawen towards the front, as they can potentially just one-shot all the Ascension members. And you want to try and use everyone else to try and block the pathway, so all the Ascension members that are coming across can't actually pass them because they're standing in the way. Doing it this way, no Ascension members come from behind, hopefully. And all you have to worry about are the Ascension members, which will literally spawn right here, as you can see on screen, right next to the ram and the door which we're trying to break through. And that, ladies and gents, is pretty much the entire tactic for this little section, and that is pretty much all there is to it. So now you essentially stand here, mow down any Ascension members you see, try to keep your battering ram alive as long as possible as it tries to break down the portcullis and give us access to Nomad. So you can still move your friends about during this little section. If you didn't manage to move all your friends in time into the spots you want, and you've got lots of Ascension members moving through, move them into place whilst you're mid-fight, and try to block up that bridge as best you can. All the while, pay attention to any Ascension members that spawn next to the battering ram, and just mow them down. Your AoE skills do come in handy here, so make use of them to take out the groups of 3 which randomly spawn here. Additionally, if at any point you get to a point where you're just kind of standing around twiddling your thumbs, you can turn back to where your friends are and just pop out a cheeky bombardment or chain or dragonfire or something along those lines. You know, just to make you smile and keep you entertained for a little bit. But besides that, that's pretty much it for this little Ascension boss bit. So, since we've got a bit of time, I'll explain what's going to be coming up then, as we're still killing these Ascension members. Essentially, the next couple of battles will be Nomad, then you control an NPC, then Nomad, then you control an NPC, then Nomad. That is pretty much what is coming up for the next couple of battles, all after each other. So it's Nomad, NPC, Nomad, NPC, Nomad, NPC, Nomad. Alright, the first fight, as soon as we enter this portcullis area, will be against Nomad. If for whatever reason your supplies are running low or you wish to change your combat style, no problem at all. As soon as you enter and you regain control inside, you can go ahead and teleport out with your one-click emergency oh shit telly, or you can simply click on the portal, which will be very nearby, literally behind you, and that'll make you appear next to Death's little hole just north of Draenor. Head into Draenor Bank and you can resupply there, then head back to Death, and you can be given the option of either going to Death or Nomad Elegy. Just choose Nomads Elegy and you'll appear on the phase you was last on. So the first fight itself is against Nomad and his little friend called Gillinor, which is some kind of deformed pink, luminous blue, dodgy Gothics. So yeah. Nomad himself doesn't use any of his mega special attacks like he had in Nomad's Requiem, so no bombs or insta-kills or supercharged power attacks or anything like that. Don't particularly need to worry about them. Nomad himself will just casually do regular damage to you, and occasionally he will shout and open up a chat box saying, "Feel the wrath of Gillinor." When that happens, he'll teleport to the outside of the bridge, and you'll be teleported to the center of the bridge. As soon as you see that chat box, just start spam clicking to run away from the center of the bridge, and you are golden. Literally. The other special attack that can happen is Nomad will punch the floor, and then Guthix will use his dodgy special attack. Again, as soon as you see Guthix move throughout any part of this fight, if he jiggles his little arm or starts to raise his arm at all, just run away from where you were currently standing, and you'll be fine. To protect from both of those attacks though, if he says "Feel the wrath of Gillinor" and you decide, nah, I can't be asked to move out of the center of the bridge because I'm too lazy to click, then you can just chuck on Protect from Melee and that'll reduce the massive amount of damage you'll take. And if you happen to get caught in Guthix's special little attack, or when Nomad punches the floor, then you want Protect from Magic. And if you have Protect from Magic on, then that'll save you a bit of damage as well, as regularly they'll hit you constantly for about 850 at a time. So essentially, your tactics for the first Nomad fight are, if a chat window pops up, run. If Guthix, or Dodgy Guthix, let's call him Dodgy Guthix, if he raises his arm at any point during the fight, run. That's pretty much it. Besides that, you just mow down Nomad to your best ability, and then keep your health high. Same as usual, stat boosting pots, using your prey, and everything else is kind of useful here. I do recommend a bit of Soul Split if you can access it. It does help out a fair bit, although Protect from Melee is probably your next best bet to save some HP. There you go. This is what it looks like. The portal's right behind you. You can go ahead and click on that to back out and resupply. But once you're ready, head on in and head to the bridge, and you'll see Nomad in the center. Get prepped up, pot up, everything else, and then start to poke him. So try to keep your camera angle roughly as you see on screen right now, where you can see Dodgy Guthix plus Nomad. As you can see, that's the chat box there. Feel the power of Gillinor. You'll get teleported to the center, just run out of the way, and you'll avoid taking massive damage. Try to avoid standing in the center as much as possible, as you won't really tell when Nomad decides to actually run away or teleport, and that is the other special attack Gillinor can use, or Dodgy Guthix. Literally, as soon as you see his arm move or him do anything special, just run out of the way, otherwise you get hit by massive damage. And that is essentially it for this first fight. There's not a lot to it. Nomad's got roughly 100k HP. Takes a little while to whittle down, but you don't take a huge amount of damage during this fight as long as you avoid those two major attacks. Besides that, it's a fairly straightforward, lengthy Slayer task essentially. And that is pretty much round 1 complete versus Nomad. So in case you don't remember the tactics, it's poke Nomad in the face until he dies, and in the meanwhile, if a chat window pops up, move out the way. If chunky dodgy Gillinor / Guthix moves, move out of the way. Soon as Nomad's dead, you will then reappear and you'll be acting as Zenia now, and you'll be in a completely different room altogether. If you need to leave to restock, as you can actually restock and get all your food back on your main character at this point, you can click on the door right by here and you'll leave. For this little section, you need to run around the room, and in each of the cardinal directions you'll find a bunch of Ascension members. At the top of your screen you'll see 3 special abilities which will be particular to Zenia. One looks like a dodgy fireball, the other is like a shield dome, and the other looks like metamorphosis. Essentially, run into the center of each horde of these Ascension members and spam click the shit out of all 3. That's your tactic for this section. It's really graceful, isn't it? It's a wonderful tactic. So much thought. So essentially, run into the center of them, spam click all 3 until everything's dead. You'll be left with Casperius Ascension members, and the only thing you need to do on these is just regularly attack them. Don't bother using any spec attacks. The reason for that is they'll actually heal you. So yeah, there we go. Once you've finished off the first batch, run into the center of the second batch, and once again, use that spam click method. And just click all 3 rapidly and as much as physically possible until everything around you dies except for the Casperius. And then use your regular attacks on the Casperius. And that is pretty much it. Whilst doing this action, you shouldn't take very much damage at all, to be totally fair. You shouldn't be in any danger of dying on this little bit. If for whatever reason though, I've no idea why, but if you're struggling to do this when you're doing large groups, just try to grab 1 or 2 at a time and use that method instead. And that way you're guaranteed to do this little section. So once you've cleared the second group, move on to your third and final group. Once again, you already know the tactics. Run into the center, spam those buttons like a mofo, and that is it. Job done. This will be the Zenia section complete, and then we move on to the second combat against Nomad. So again, as soon as you finish this combat here, you'll be back in the room in control of your own body versus Nomad. If you did go to bank, then you'll find that your inventory and your yak and everything else will be exactly the same as when you exited and then came back in. So if you refilled, your inventory should now be full of munchies and everything else. If you didn't, then you'll be in exactly the same situation you were when you left the first fight. And the only thing you really need to watch out for as soon as you go back into this Nomad fight, as well as the future ones if you don't bank in between, is healing quickly as soon as you reappear as yourself. Because for whatever reason, you can get a weird bit of like starting lag, like the NPCs have already started the combat before you can even see your own character, and you'll take a bit of extra damage. But besides that, so on to the second Nomad fight then. So this one is a little bit different. There's quite a few methods to deal with this action. He's got a few more attacks as well, so you kind of need to be a little bit wary. So, same as always, he'll shout out and teleport you into the center and be like, oh, Gilno's Wrath and blah blah blah. Just run out of the way, same tactics. If you see dodgy Guthix move as well, same as before, move out of the way. The only other special attack he has is this one right here, Can You Feel My Wrath? He'll teleport to the outside, you'll stay in the same position. And when he does so, he'll take a few seconds to charge his attack and then bat you in the face with it. Now when you did Dishonor Among Thieves, if you gave him the jazz piece, and you don't have any protections on when he hits you with this, you'll get dealt 9,000 damage worth. If you didn't give him the jazz piece, then you'll take 7.5k worth of damage. And there's a few ways to counteract this special attack. One is you just straight up blood tank it. Just stand there like an absolute moron and just take the beating and just eat through it. If you're wearing roughly tier 80 gear, such as like your poured armor or anything along those lines, and your chaotic weapons, you shouldn't have any problem. You could literally just blood tank this section, but there's potential for 1-hit KO if you ended up giving them the jazz piece. Your other two methods, option 2, is make use of Debilitate and Preparation. As soon as you see that chat window saying, Can you feel my wrath? As soon as you've counted maybe 1-2 seconds, if you move towards him, just use Debilitate against Nomad himself, and that'll cut the damage down in half. And then if you use Preparation exactly the same time, that'll drop it down by another 10%, and then you'll only get hit for about 3 to 4k-ish HP, which is quite a lot better than 7.5 and 9k. Option 3 though is, well, completely and utterly safe, to be totally fair. Bring in a shield with you. You don't have to use it throughout the entire fight, you just need it to swap in nice and quick. And when you see him shout, Feel My Wrath, just simply use Resonance and you won't actually take any damage whatsoever. So that's your tactic for Nomad fight number 2. Once you've completed that, you'll come back and you will now appear as Death. So this one, you want to stand in the cardinal directions. You'll start off on the south side, just run up to the fence, use his special ability Provoke, then move out of the way, then move back to where his hand is slammed down, use your scythe, and then follow it up with the dodgy smoke looking thing which will extract the soul he's left behind. Once you've done so, run away from there and head to another cardinal direction. So in this point on screen you can see I'm now directly in the far west. You want to stand next to the railing, once again use Provoke, move out of the way, move back once his hand's there, use your scythe move, and then extract the soul. Dodgy purple move. Then run away to your next cardinal direction, and that is it. That's it for this little section. It's the easiest one of the lot. You literally run to each cardinal direction and use Provoke, move back to the hand, scythe, extract soul, move to your next direction, done. Once you've done all 4 directions, you'll now reappear back against Nomad once again, and you'll be in exactly the same condition as you left. So if you do need to resupply yourself, then now is the time to do it, because this is very simple and can be done very quickly. The doorway is where you started in the south side. You can go ahead and exit and leave. They'll pop you back over to Drainer, quickly bank, and then come back fully supplied. Or you can complete this section, go to the Nomad bit, and then use your oh shit telly to get out and resupply then. So this is the same as the first stage. Dodgy Guthix will randomly pop his hand up in the air and try to hit you with a mage attack, just move out of the way. And Nomad will randomly teleport you into the center, in which case you just simply move away. The quirk of this one though is when you get Nomad down to about a third or half HP, he will spawn a body clone. There'll be now 2 Nomads attacking you whilst Gillenor is playing funny fuckers. Additionally, he will still use Can You Feel My Wrath, so make use of Debilitate and Preparation, or your Shield and Resonance, or straight up Blood Tank it. Either one of those methods works. So essentially this fight is identical to the second phase. The only difference is when Nomad gets to about 50% to 30% HP, he'll spawn a body clone of himself. At which point you'll no longer use the Can You Feel My Wrath move, but there'll be 2 Nomads attacking you at one time, and you've got no idea which one is the real and which one is the fake. If you happen to be attacking the fake, then once he dies, the other Nomad will still be there and you'll have to kill the second one. If you happen to have chosen correctly and you killed the correct Nomad, then the other clone will instantly die upon the first one dying and you'll be teleported into the next room. But that's it for this fight. It is identical to stage 2, except for these clones right at the end. After you finish this Nomad fight and you appear in the next room, I highly recommend you leave the room straight away and go to resupply. Even if you are very much comfortable with completing the final wave, which is just after it, and you have enough supplies for it, I still recommend leaving and coming back in. The main reason is because the next section is incredibly annoying and it actually is quite a bit easier if you leave and come back in rather than try to do it straight away. So click on the door to leave, come out, go and resupply. Even if you only need like 6 rocks and that's all you use in that last fight, just go and resupply. So this next little section is your final 2 fights now. We'll control Icthlarin for the first part and then it's the final fight against Nomad. First of all, the final fight against Nomad is a straight up beat 'em up match. Dodgy Guthix will still try to slam the floor and randomly wave his arm to attack you with a magic attack. All you need to do is simply move. So keep your camera roughly pointed towards Dodgy Guthix so you can tell when that's coming. Besides that, Nomad will just try to beat you down with super fast attacks. His damage doesn't really seem to go up and is kind of piss poor to be fair. So you won't take a massive amount of damage. Again though, easy counter to this is make use of your Debilitate and Preparation and cycle between the 2. Don't use them both at once, just so you've always got some kind of damage mitigation. If you've got your shield as well, then you can always use some shield abilities now and then to try and buff your HP up a bit. But once you're ready, come back in, and it's time for the annoying part with Icthlarin. I highly recommend watching what to do before you come in and do it. So as soon as you start, you want to walk around this room in a counterclockwise fashion. So you want to start in this corner, and he's only got 2 moves. One looks like a staff, one looks like a dome. You use the staff when you're in the middle of these dodgy yellow glowing souls, and you'll collect them all up. Do this to each of these. They're in each of the corners and each of the cardinal directions. And you want to try and collect as much as physically possible. So you want to roughly run into the center of them, use your staff move to collect the souls, then move on to the next one. Whatever you do, do not hang about. Try to run around as quick as physically possible. If you miss 1 or 2 on each of the collections, don't worry, just keep running. If you happen to stop, then Dodgy Guthix will be hitting you with some massive blue beam of insta-death, and you'll have to restart again. Once you've gone through the full cycle, as I'm about to now, a massive chat box will appear on the screen. Keep running around the room until you see this blue bouncy ball disappear. As soon as it does, you want to use that shield move. Now, this part can be incredibly annoying. You're either going to fail a lot or do it first time. It is literally all about timing. It's fairly straightforward. There's not a huge amount to it, but the timing is annoying to catch if you're bad at it. So all you do is essentially run around, use your staff move, collect the souls. Don't get hit by the dodgy blue beam that's chasing you. And once you've collected all of them, a chat window will pop up. And once it does, you want to look to where Dodgy Guthix is blowing his dodgy blue beam. And as soon as that disappears, you want to use your shield move about 1 second after. Or even half a second, like now. So the blue beam's just disappeared, use the shield. And that's pretty much it. If you happen to miss the timing, then you'll either get hit for like 8.5k damage, or you'll insta-die and you'll restart again. Either way, once you've done that, it's your final fight. So it's the last one, it's the showdown against you versus Nomad. Nomad drops all of his special moves now for quick, rapid attacks. Check on Protect from melee is your best bet on this one. Soul Split isn't really much better. Your best bet here is Protection from melee. If you have Vampirism, that can help out if you're a lower level. But besides that, it's essentially just a blood tank match. Try to dish out as much physical damage as you can. Keep an eye on Dodgy Guthix in the centre of the room. If he moves his arm in a dodgy way, then you know that super massive pink attack is coming. Just move out of the way and you're good. Your best bet here, if you're using magic, is something like using Metamorphosis or the Sunshine Ultimate to boost your damage up as much as possible, just to dish out some nice numbers. And it's the same deal with your range and your melee. Make use of Berserk if you wish. It's a bit risky because you can take extra damage from it as well, but your damage output will skyrocket. And if you're on range, then you can use something like Unload or this little Death Dome thing, which I just used then to boost your damage. All in all, the last section is fairly straightforward. As you can see, I only used, 5 food, and that's it, Nomad's dead. And that is it for your combat at the end. So your choices here, you can choose option 1 for Death or Ixthlarin. I've no idea which choice makes a difference. I know you get a slightly different cutscene, but besides that, until the next set of quests come out, we'll never know what they actually mean. So choose whichever one you want, and whichever one you did choose, you'll lob Nomad Spear at, and then you'll have some epic Matrix cutscene style, and whoever it was will stab Dodgy Guthix in the face. And poof, there he goes. So you'll have another little cutscene straight after it. Just quickly spam through the chat, you know the drill. Hold down that spacebar, son. Eventually, Sliske will appear and he'll be like, haha, I'm Sliske, and you know, that kind of thing. Choose whichever options you wish. It doesn't really matter which ones you choose here, as the consequences we won't know until later quests come out. But essentially, Sliske will tell you about activating the little god battle again, and he'll ask you if you want to let Nomad survive or execute him. Doesn't really matter which one you choose, because Sliske will end up taking him away as a prisoner anyway, so yeah. So once you regain control, you'll be back at the war room on the dodgy port. Go ahead and speak to Death, run through his chat, choose option 1, I've said my goodbyes. Run through his chat some more, you'll have a little cutscene. It doesn't matter really which option you choose here, you can either say goodbye to your friends, or what do I do now, or anything else. It doesn't matter, eventually you'll come to the end, and that is that, ladies and gents. That is your quest complete, Nomads Elegy is done and dusted. Quite straightforward, wasn't it? So, for this you gain 1 quest point, 50k construction XP, 50k mining XP, 50k woodcutting XP. You also gain a 50k experience combat lamp, which you can put in any combat style. You also gain the invention blueprints for a soul in a box and an urn enhancer, both of which will require level 24 invention to use. And obviously you get your 2 treasure hunter keys and your heart's advice as well. And if for whatever reason your inventory space is completely full and you can't actually get the lamps, then you can reclaim them from the Soul Wars host, depending on if you chose for Zanik to come back to life or for Zimbafiz to stay there. And that's it. Well done. Till next time, catch you all later.